Alright class, on to 8.3, proving similarity by side, 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 and side, angle, side. You see how these pop back up again? So in our own words, write the meaning of each vocabulary term. So we've kind of already talked about similarity figures and corresponding parts. So we have similar figures, and remember we said it's same shape, but different size. Same shape, different size. And then we have corresponding parts. The corresponding parts, remember, are pairs of, I'm writing this in my own words, so it's pairs of matching sides or angles in a relative position. Okay, so pardon the handwriting, I'm kind of going through. We already know about slope. If we were to have y equals mx plus b, we know slope is m, also known as rate of change. And then when we also think of slope, we also think of rise over run. Okay, so we also think of that. Parallel lines. No, we get confused on parallel lines versus perpendicular lines. Parallel lines are lines that never touch, and their slope is the same. Slope is the same. Now perpendicular lines, that's parallel lines. Perpendicular lines, remember, they create 90-degree angles, and the slope has product or multiply, remember, of -1. So if I were to multiply the slope of this to the slope of that, it should end up with -1. Or to find the opposite slope, we use opposite reciprocal. So that was a way to find perpendicular slope. Okay? So now we're going to go on to our first theorem. So we have side, side, side similarity. So this is all the sides are congruent, then my triangles are similar. So remember, this meant similar. Okay? So if all of my sides are congruent to each other or equal to each other, then my triangles are similar to each other as well. So this example, see, I already have it pre-drawn for you, so feel free to pause if you need to draw this out. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and solve for x. So I have a triangle, and I know that in this triangle, and I write this part of my example, ABC is similar to DEF. Okay, so I have x here, and it's congruent to BC, and EF is in its place. So remember, to find x, I like to draw like a giant equal sign over it. So I have x minus 1 all over something equal to 18 all over something. Now I can choose this one, but I'm left with a whole bunch of x's. So let's choose AB. So I have AB is 4, and it's congruent to DE, which is 12. So 4 is going to go underneath my x minus 1 because they're in the same triangle, and 12 is going to go underneath my 18. Okay, so then I'm going to cross multiply. Remember to use parentheses when you have more than one thing. And then equal to 18 times 4. I'm going to go ahead and put that in my calculator. So 18 times 4 is 72. So make sure to distribute. And then add. So 12x equals 72 plus 12. And that gives me 84. And I divide by 12. I get 7. So x equals 7. X is equal to 7. And so now, let's just see if all of mine are proportionate, or if these are truly similar to each other. So I found x is 7, so I'm going to plug it in. So BC is actually 7 minus 1, which is 6. And then I have 7 plus 1 times 3. So 7 plus 1 is 8, and 8 times 3 is 24. So this is 24. So now we're going to see if they're all proportionate to each other, or at least have the same scale factor. Same scale factor. And so, see, I have 24 all over 8. And what does that reduce down to? So 24 divided by 8, and I get 3 over 1. So definitely a scale factor bigger than that. Let's check my other one. So I have 12 over 4, and I still get 3 from my two congruent sides. And then I have 18 over 6, and it does give me 3. So they all have the same scale factor of 3, or 3 over 1. So these triangles are similar to each other. Okay, so let's move on to the next page. So moving on to the next page, I have side angle side similarities. So if I have two angles that are the same and I have two sides that are the same, then my triangles are similar to each other. So my triangles are going to be similar to each other. So I need to show how are these two similar. So I'll give you a moment to write those down. Okay, so let's talk about congruent angles. So do I have any congruent angles like it said here? Well, I do. R is congruent to N because they are 90 degrees. And then I should have where SR is congruent to PN. So these should be congruent to each other, so they should have the same scale factor. So SR is congruent to PN. Okay, and SR is 24, and then PN is 18, and if I were to reduce that, I do get 4/3. And now let's check my next side. So I have RT all over NQ. RT is 28, and NQ is 21. So remember how we plug this into our calculator. We do 28 divided by 21. And I get weird long decimal. Remember to hit math and hit enter twice. And you get your fraction, 4/3. And they have the same scale factor, so these do match. They are similar. Okay, let's go on to our extra practice problems at the bottom. So I have number 1 and 2. I have to determine whether both of these are going to be congruent to the one that's given. RST is similar to ABC. So let's look at number 1. So I have RST. So what is congruent to TR? Note, my factor got bigger, so this just got big. My scale factor is going to be big. Big scale. So what's congruent to TR? The AC. Or you can say CA. So TR is 4, and all over CA is 2.5. And so you can type that into your calculator. So you have 4 divided by 2.5. And then with this weird fraction again, so make sure you hit math and enter twice, and I get 8 over 5. Okay, so now let's try another one so you can get 8 over 5 again. And so let's try TS, and what's congruent to TS would be BC. So BC is 5. So I have TS all over CB or BC. So I have 7 over 5. And I cannot reduce that, but do these match? They do not. So this is not similar. These two would not be similar to each other. But let's try number 2. Maybe this one is. So number 2, I still have RST. However, it's kind of fit a little differently. I still have to match up my sides though. So what is congruent to RT? So if I wanted RT, well, or if I wanted RS, let's talk about RS, the long side. So RS is here, and so that means AB would be my matching side. That would be 6. So RS and AB. But note, the scale factor kind of got a little small here. I went from 6 to 12 over 5, and 12 over 5 as a decimal is definitely smaller than 6. It's actually 2.4. So this just got small. So my scale factor is going to be small. Okay, so when I'm writing this, I'm actually going to put my big one on top. So think about trying to keep your biggest one on top unless otherwise. So let's go with our big number. So I have AB. So AB is 6 all over RS. So I have 6 all over 2.4, or you can say 12 over 5. And when I reduce that, I can say that. So 6 divided by, this is where you have to use parentheses, 12 divided by 5, close parentheses. And I end up with 2.5, or as a fraction for scale factors, it would be 5 over 2. So now I'm going to see if I can choose 2 other ones, see if I get the same answer. So I have ST. What's congruent to ST? Or ST on this side would be BC. So BC here is 5. So I have BC, taking the big one, all over the small, which is ST. And it actually does give me 5 over 2. These matching scale factors, so these are similar. Okay, so this is where you're taking scale factors to see if things are similar to each other. These did not have the same scale factor, and these did. And note, this one was scaled smaller, this one was scaled bigger. Okay. So let's go on to the next page. So number 3, it says find the value of x that makes RST similar to HGK. So let's go ahead and match these up. So let's start with this one. I have GH. What is congruent to GH? And that would be RS. We can always go in order here. RS and HG. Okay, so I can actually set these equivalent to each other. So I have 3 over whatever number equal to x plus 7. And then I can choose another one. I could choose 3 minus x. However, I would end up with finding even more problems with x. So let's go with the whole numbers. If anything, try to go with the whole numbers. So I have 20 over 3 and then 5. So 5 is going to go under my 3. And 20 over 3 is going to go underneath my x plus 7. Now all I have to do is cross multiply or use the butterfly. So on one side I have 3 parentheses 20 times 3. And on the other side I have 5 parentheses x plus 7. So if you note, you can always cancel these out. These would cancel out because it's 3 over 1. Or you can say 3 times 20, which is 60, divided by 3, I still end up with 20. So either way, I end up with 20. I'm going to distribute my right side. So I have 5x plus 35. I'm going to subtract 35 from both sides. And I'm left with negative 15 equaling 5x. Make sure you divide by 5. And so x equals negative 3. Okay, and you can always plug it in to see if it matches. So RT, I have 3 minus the negative 3. And I end up with 6, and then 20 over 3 is on that side, and then I have 8. and then I plug in -3 here, I end up with 4. So let's see if our scale factors match. So I have 4/3 because we had GH or HG over RS. And then let's see if we can match RT at the bottom and then HK on top. So HK is 8, bottom is 6, and let's see if we reduce it down. So we have 8 divided by 6, and I still end up with 4/3, so x minus 3 does prove that this works. Okay. Number 4. Verify that these two triangles are similar by finding the scale factor. So I have RST and XYZ. So in this rate, I'm going to have the big numbers on top. So big numbers are on top. So I have 28/12, and it should be congruent to 35/15, which should be congruent to 56/24. These are called proportions that we talked about in our previous unit. So if we were to reduce all of these, so let's try 28/12. I do end up with 7/3. Let's try 35/15. Still end up with 7/3. And then 56/24. And I also end up with 7/3. The scale factor for this one is 7/3. Okay. So remember, we're going bigger this time. RST is really small, so we're going big on top. Okay? So big over small. So things like this, when you're going from really small numbers to really big numbers, and your scale factor has to be greater than 1. So you have your big number on top. And last but not least, we have number 5 and 6. So it says the shortest side of a triangle similar to ABC is 15 units long. Find the other side lengths of the triangle. So I'm going to draw a picture very similar to this one. And it says the shortest side of a triangle is 15 units long. So the short side, which side would be short? Well, it would be 6. So in the same place where 6 is, I'm going to put 15. And so this time my scale factor definitely got bigger. So I have a big scale factor. Okay? And so that means I need to have big over small. So let's just find the scale factor first. So big over small means I need to have 15/6. And 15/6 reduces to 5/2. So that is my scale factor. Now I need to know my other side length. Well, I would just take my scale factor and multiply by original to get the new. And what I mean by that is we're going to take 7. Say if I had 7 here, I'm going to multiply it by my scale factor. 5/2. And I get 35/2 is one side length for this one, my similar triangle. And I'll do the same thing to 9. And so my new side length for my similar triangle is 45/2. And so that's how you find your new ones. On to number 6. Still drawing, but the longest side is 6 units long. So the longest side, which was 9, shrunk down to 6. So now I have a small scale factor. So it shrunk. So I have a small scale factor this time. So when I have a small scale factor, I need to do small over the big because it has to be less than 1. This one is greater than 1. This one will be less than 1. So I have 6 and I have 9. So 6 over 9 reduces to 2/3. So that's my scale factor. And now I can find my other lengths. So on this top one, I have 6 times 2 over 3. 6 times 2 is 12, divided by 3 is 4. So my new length here is 4. And I'll do the same thing where 7 is. So 7 times 2 over 3, and I end up with 14 over 3, because 14 does not divide into 3 evenly. Okay, so that is your last example. On your next page is your puzzle. So it says, what speaks every language? So this is 8.3 that you'll go through and fill out in practice. And then on the other side, 8.2 and 8.3 is a giant worksheet that starts on page 20. And so these will be your practices that you will do on your own. Thank you so much.